That's some catch, that Catch-22.
Sorry, grandmas. Better luck never. We're 30. Tell us what menopause is like.
From George Clooney's World War II satire to an animated adult series about bird women. Welcome to Encore's show on all that's new on the small screen with Dheepthika Laurent. Hello, Dipti.
Hi.
Welcome to the show. Now let's start with Eden. It's a migrant mini-series on the French-German channel Arte.
That's right. It couldn't be a more fitting series for a European channel like Arte. This one is from Dominique Moll. It's a show that switches between German, French, English, Greek, and Arabic. It's set in various European countries as well as Lebanon, seen through 5 perspectives, Eve. You have a German family who take in a refugee, 2 Nigerian brothers living in a Greek refugee camp, 2 poor Greek security guards working at that camp, and a French CEO trying to make money from that camp, and then Syrian refugee families living in Paris. It really depicts their hellish journey to Europe, and then once in Europe, the culture shock, the prejudice, the racism and mistrust they face.
And for some of the actors, it's a case of art imitating life, isn't it?
That's right, in particular for 2 Syrian actors, Maxim Khalil and Jalil Al-Tawid. They're actually outspoken critics of the Syrian regime and exiled here in France. In fact, France 24 got a chance to speak to the 2 actors during the filming of Eden's scenes in Paris last year. Take a look.
Action.
467 sur 2, troisième.
Last day of shooting for the crew. After Greece and Germany, now Paris, filming a scene about a Syrian family in exile.
Imagine the lamppost over there is the Eiffel Tower. It's beautiful.
But fiction is a reality for 2 of the main actors. Jalal Al-Tawil and Maxim Khalil have fled Damascus, finding refuge in France.
My character's life isn't exactly the same as mine, but like all Syrians, we do have similarities, in the sense that I was forced to flee my country to protect my family, my children.
It's been a real challenge for me. Many of the scenes in the show were overwhelming, especially the ones where we talk about torture and suffering.
Far away from home, Jalal and Maxime have had to learn French, adapt to the European culture, and find a job.
Do you think the series should have a more powerful ending?
Yes, but not necessarily violent.
The 2 actors are well known for their stance against Bashar al-Assad's regime. Maxime, considered one of the best actors in the Arab world. And Jalal, who was beaten up and thrown behind bars for taking part in opposition protests. After his release, he went into exile.
You have to start from scratch. When you're home and you're considered a professional, when you've become a well-known actor, and suddenly here, you're nothing. Well, that's so hard.
As the war rages on in Syria, Jalal and Maxime hope their work in Europe will humanize the refugee crisis.
Well, Dipti, I've watched the first few episodes of Eden and it is very intense, it's gripping, and it shows just how complex this situation is. What were your thoughts?
I agree. Very serious, very thought-provoking, gripping and emotional. I think the 5 intertwined storylines work surprisingly well. It's not too complicated. Dominique Moll offers no criticism or judgment when he's depicting either the Europeans or the refugees. What I found fascinating was that the show really juxtaposes the wealth and poverty of, Europeans and refugees. You have the poor Greek security guards, and then you have the educated Syrian families who are now facing a new life as refugees in Paris. There are some cringy moments I found. A few stereotypical characters I didn't care much for, like the spoiled, annoying German teenager who's having a hard time dealing with...
Yeah, he annoys me a lot as well.
Yeah, I didn't find him very convincing. Ultimately, I also think the story could have been stronger with just maybe 3 stories. The strongest storylines are the ones that focused on the migrants and their plights.
Okay. That's Eden. Let's move on, though, to George Clooney. He's back on the small screen with his miniseries Catch-22. It's his first time on screen, actually, since ER. It's a dark satire set during World War II. Tell us more.
That's right. George Clooney, he plays Lieutenant Scheitskopf, a bonkers, mad authority figure. It's a pretty small role in the show. Christopher Abbott, who you'll recognize from Girls, if you're a fan, plays the main character, John Yossarian. He's a low-ranked bombardier who flies dangerous missions over the Mediterranean. He has a set number of missions to fly before he can be discharged. The problem is his superiors keep increasing that number. So he hatches a plan to be discharged by means of insanity. But there's a catch-22. Take a look.
I think it's really important to always be able to talk about the absurdity of war. And I think that can never get old.
You can ground me if I'm crazy, right?
Oh, sure, I have to. I have to ground anyone who's crazy.
Then ground me, I'm crazy.
You're not crazy.
Why not?
Catch-22. As soon as you ask to get out of combat duty, you're no longer crazy, and so you have to fly more missions.
That's some catch, that Catch-22.
It's the best there is.
Read me back the last line.
Read me back the last line.
Not my last line, somebody else's.
Read me back the last line.
That's my last line again.
Oh, no, sir, that's my last line. I read it to you just a moment ago.
I think you and I are the only two sane people on this base.
I have decided to raise the mission count from 25 to 30. We're gonna win this thing. Hip, hip!
Now, the book is the series is based on a 1961 book by American author Joseph Heller, which was made into a film in 1970 by Mike Nichols, wasn't it?
That's right. The book is actually based on Heller's own experiences as a bombardier fighter pilot during the Second World War. And Heller actually coined the term Catch-22, which basically refers to a situation in which the only solution possible is contradictory to the situation itself. Catch-22 was an acclaimed satirical novel when it came out in 1961. It divided society at the time for its anti-war sentiment and its portrayal, a negative portrayal of women. For that reason, taking the series to a post-Me Too era was always going to be a risky move for George Clooney.
Okay, so what did you make of Catch-22?
Very entertaining, very entertaining. It's darkly humorous, it's poignant at times, and absurdist. I love the absurdist comedy. You know, there's a character, for instance, called Major, because his dad played a practical joke on him when he was naming him at birth. Christopher Abbott is fantastic. He really captures the anxiety-ridden Yossarian. I also like the fact that characters in this show aren't heroes. They're ordinary men put into a difficult situation, and they're terrified of dying. They're terrified of not knowing how they're going to die. It's very realistic. I found George Clooney's character a little bit too contrived for my liking, but I did like the portrayal of army superiors played by Hugh Laurie, aka Dr. House, and Kyle Chandler as dithering, malleable types. The combat scenes were authentic. The costumes and even the accents were very true to the time. Some of the jokes do wear thin, I find. The show takes a bit too long to get into the concept of Catch-22, which is the most interesting part of the show.
Okay, well, that was Catch-22. I absolutely love the next one we're going to talk about. Netflix has released the adult animated show Tuca and Bertie. It's about two 30-something bird women navigating through modern life, and it's utterly fabulous.
It is, and it reminds me of another Netflix animated show called BoJack Horseman. So in this one, Tuca is a toucan and Bertie is a songbird. They're humanoid bird women voiced respectively by Tiffany Haddish, the star of the film Girls Trip, and stand-up comedian Ali Wong. So Tuca is loud, she's squawky, she's confident, she's outspoken. Bertie is socially anxious, eager to please, eager to fit in. And apparently, they're not too different from the actresses themselves. Take a look.
I mean, in a lot of ways, it kind of does mirror us because Tiffany's like out there and about and she's like fun and is like not repressed.
Hey, Jeremy, ring Bertie up for this book for horny people who don't know how to have sex.
You got it.
And I'm kind of a recluse and I'm a homebody. I'm like the boring person who is at home with my husband and my kids.
Just show me what kind of porn you'd normally click on.
Well, this feels like a trap.
I watched this nature documentary and I watched these toucans who were digging into other birds' nests and eating their eggs and gobbling them up just like, that's kind of what the show is based on, is like, no, these are real characters. This is about a friendship between 30-year-old bird women. I want women in the real world to relate to it, even though they're not bird people.
That's the alarm that sounds when no women have spoken out loud for 3 minutes.
And as we see there, Dipti, there's some pretty sharp social commentary in the show, isn't there?
That's right. The show pecks at, if you'll allow me, the millennial malaise. It tackles issues like sexual harassment in the workplace, dating, alcoholism, money, social conformity. You know, there's a really good episode about sex bugs where the show sends up modern parenting, healthy eating, and clean living. Not every episode hits the spot, but it's never preachy. It's joyously weird. It's delightfully gross and really, really relatable. And I find the odd couple dynamic of loudmouth Tiffany Haddish and worry wart Ali Wong really works well, and it's just a beautiful celebration of female friendship.
Right. Can't wait to watch some more of it. Next, Dame Diana Rigg has held this next TV series, a step forward for women. Phoebe Waller-Bridge's hit rom-com Fleabag is coming to an end, isn't it?
Sadly. So British fans have no doubt already binged the season, the final season, which came out first on BBC. It gets its global release now on Amazon Prime this month. Phoebe Waller-Bridge, she brings her caustic comedy to Fleabag, the character, a raging 30-something, sex-addicted woman living in London, feeling guilty over her friend's death. Season 2, without giving too much away, sees a wedding, a miscarriage, and my favorite, a sexy priest. Expect the return of Fleabag's neurotic family, including her wicked stepmother, played to perfection by Olivia Colman, and a whole dose of good old British passive aggression.
Which we like. The show has garnered a huge international fan base as well, hasn't it?
It has, so much so, in fact, that Canal+, the French network, has tweeted this out earlier this year, that they're shooting a remake called Mouche, or Fly, starring Camille Cotin, who will be best known to our foreign audiences from the show 10% or Call My Agent. Vogue editor Anna Wintour is a fan, as is Daniel Craig. In fact, so much so that he personally asked for Phoebe Waller-Bridge to spruce up the script of the next James Bond movie with her trademark wit.
Oh, exciting. Dipti, thank you so much. You can check out her humour for yourselves. Let's leave you with a sneak peek at Fleabag's final season. Remember our website, we're also on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. There's more news coming up on France 24 after this.
Close with your family? Is that far? Yes, but it's okay because it had a stroke. Oh, lovely. We get on with it. Hi.
Thought you'd be in prison by now.
Oh, well, keep trying, but they just won't have me.
You look strong.
Oh, my God!
Are you?
Oh, I'm a pretty normal person.
What makes you a normal person?
Well, I don't believe in God.